Welcome back to the Daily BS. My name is Doug Larson from the Barbell Shrugged Podcast. You can find us at barbellshrugged.com. The question today is about programming for hard gainers. So hard gainers are people that tend to have difficulty putting on muscle mass. So if you're a person who's naturally thin and it's very difficult for you to put on muscle mass, first thing I want to point out is that even though the question's about programming, with regard to putting on muscle mass, your nutrition, your diet, how much food you're eating is going to probably still be the biggest factor. So I won't talk too much about that because the question was about programming, but first you need to really check with yourself and make sure that you're eating enough food. Even if you're on a bad program, if you're eating enough food, you still should be getting bigger, even if you're just getting fatter. Okay, so getting bigger is all about food. Whether you get bigger with muscle mass or fat mass has more to do with your program. So eat enough food to get bigger no matter what, and then you can adjust your programming to make sure that it's mostly muscle. Okay? With regard to programming, for the most part, the changes that I like to make are the opposite of the changes that I make for people that don't want to put on muscle mass. So when people are trying not to put on any weight at all, people that are in a weight class sport, for example, usually we have them do a lot of concentric only movements. That'd be things like power cleans. For conditioning, they do things like run hill sprints or do the prowler or airdyne, things where the muscle is contracting under load, but then when you go to cycle through, there's no tension on the muscle as it's lengthening. So as an example, I do a clean, I push on the floor, I catch, and then I don't lower it down the exact same way. I drop it on the ground and then I start over. There's no down portion. Okay? So if you're trying to put on muscle mass, having a down portion is very important. So doing things like power cleans and running hill sprints and doing airdyne and prowler for conditioning for a person that's trying to put on muscle mass is not the best option, or aren't the best options. Excuse me. So you want to have things like squats, where instead of falling through the bottom and getting a bounce, you want to eliminate that momentum where you're emphasizing the down portion a little more. That doesn't mean that you have to go intentionally slow. It just means that you don't neglect the eccentric portion of the lift. So whether you're doing 5x5 or 3x10, it doesn't matter that much. It depends on your training age and what your goals are for strength and whatnot, but for set and rep ranges it can vary, but you want to make sure that you don't neglect the down portion of the movement. The other thing to talk about rep ranges maybe just a little bit is to use some of the moderate rep ranges, some of the bodybuilding rep ranges, the 8 to 12s with a full rest interval in between. So I would do a set of 8, max effort to failure on something like a back squat, and then I'd have a full 3 to 5 minutes to recover, and then I'd come back and do another set of somewhere in between 8 and 12. For beginners, they tend to do very well with those moderate rep ranges. So even though they're not the best rep ranges for strength, if you're an intermediate or advanced athlete, especially if you're a beginner, those are great rep ranges to help you put on some muscle mass. So I could go a lot longer. We'll keep it short since this is a daily BS. Maybe I'll do another one on this, but there's a lot of other modifications you can make to gain muscle mass. So if you have more questions about gaining muscle, you can submit a question by going to barbellshrugged.com, clicking ask a question, or you can also submit on Twitter or Facebook, and maybe we'll do a daily BS on it in the future.